Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. It's been a little while since I took a look at an odd old version of Windows, so that is exactly what I will be doing today. Today's odd Windows version is right here. Windows Embedded 2009 POS Ready. POS, of course, being point of sale. So let's go ahead and install it, and I'll talk a little bit more while I'm installing. I still have to smack this DVD drive to get it to eject, by the way. I have not fixed that, and I've had this computer for years. Wait, no, why are you booting into Windows 10? That's not what I want. And here we go. This already looks different from the Windows version, the retail Windows version, which it is based off of. Which, let me talk about that a little bit more. This, having released in 2009, I initially thought it would be based off of Vista or maybe even Windows 7. Depending on when it was released, like early or late 2009, I was thinking it would be based on Vista or 7, because even if it released before Windows 7, Microsoft still could have released a like this special Windows version based off the same NT kernel before the consumer release of Windows 7. But no, after doing a little more research, this is actually based on Windows XP Service Pack 3, which really intrigued me at first, but then it started to make more sense. As Windows XP was 8 years old at the time, I initially thought, why would they go with such an old NT version? But it makes a lot of sense when you think about what this is built for. It's built for embedded or POS devices. Oh, here we go, Windows XP. It's built for embedded or POS devices, which are designed to do one very specific purpose and serve that purpose very reliably. The machines this is probably designed for are like self-checkout registers, ATMs, that sort of thing. Things that need an operating system to run, but they don't need much of an operating system. They just need to boot into something, and you don't want them to crash. Like, ever. So, here we are in our installer. It would make sense why they would go with XP for that, because XP on its own is already quite light. It has rather light memory requirements. It only uses like 150 megabytes for a 32-bit edition. I believe this is 32-bit. Interesting. So already this is very different than a consumer-grade Windows version. But yeah, Windows XP on its own is very light, and it would be very easy to strip it down further and only provide the very necessary core functionality of an OS that a basic device would need to function. And here we go. This is looking a little bit more like Windows XP setup with the bits over here, the little, like how far you are through the setup. And we've got this window here. I bet, yeah, I can move that around. That's cool. Okay, that's awesome. So unattended setup is a thing you often see in like enterprise grade operating systems, I believe. Now this is designed for, as the name says, unattended setup. You just press the button and it installs. Now the answer file that it mentions here, let me change my camera settings so you can see that. Now you can see this a bit better now. It mentions an answer file, and also my answer file is on a remote network resource. An answer file is something you can configure to basically automatically have it set up everything you would manually enter in interactive setup here. And that's great if you need to install Windows on like hundreds of machines and you don't want to sit there, or rather pay someone to sit there and just click through the installer hundreds of times. That is, oops. So yeah, here's where you can load your answer file. I'll just do interactive setup because That's interesting. So additional storage drivers included right here in the setup. Usually that would be a button off to the bottom left or right that you would click. But the fact that it's like main setup window in this POS Ready embedded version makes me think this was designed for a lot of systems that would need aforementioned special drivers, because yeah, here you just have an option to use them from the installation media, or you could provide additional drivers, which yes, some devices do need those. I'm just using a regular old SATA hard drive, so yeah, okay, interesting. This is a different disk configuration than I have ever seen on any Windows version. I'm just going to delete all the partitions on this disk because I don't think there is anything remotely important on here. So I'm just going to delete everything, create a new NTFS partition. Yeah, that's a very different... Wow! And then you have options to like actually name the drive and everything here. This is different than any Windows setup I've ever seen. I'll do quick format. That's cool. You can name your boot drive out of the box. Change your allocation unit size in setup. Enable compression in Windows setup. Like, wow, this is cool. I was expecting this to just be Windows XP, but no, this is so much more. Non-Unicode programs and default input language. I have no idea what those two things mean. Like default input language, that's obviously like what you type in, basically. Non-Unicode programs, though, that's interesting that they provide an option for that. I guess for compatibility. Oh, we're still only on the second like part of setup. Wow, this is gonna take a while. And also, this uses like the Windows 7/Vista style wavy Windows logo with the little reflection in the middle. That's cool. So .NET Framework POS for .NET 1.12, so it includes some extra components and system managed virtual memory. Minimum? Oh, so I guess that's literally just the most stripped down version. And disables virtual memory. So you have no page file? That's cool. So I guess for systems with like only 512 megabytes, or no, it'd have to be up to a gigabyte of like flash storage, I suppose. You would want a page file disabled so it wouldn't just like continue filling up your drive with stuff from RAM. It would just hold that all in RAM. Custom. We'll select custom so we can see exactly what it's installing. Okay, so it does have internet access. Touchscreen keyboard, that's interesting. I'm just gonna go ahead and hit it with typical, just install everything. I'm gonna name it POS because, yeah. That's cool, so you configure TCP IP in setup. I've never seen that before. I'm just not gonna mess with that now. I'm not gonna mess with workgroups and domains now. Just go ahead and install it. Okay, it's formatting, copying Core OS components. Yeah, so far this is already interesting because the setup looks very different from any retail Windows version. It looks like it's just loading from hard drive, but it also won't let me eject the disk tray. So it could also be loading some elements from the installation CD, which is interesting that it's still doing that at this point in the installation process. Usually by now a Windows version would be done with the install disk once you finish the like first step of the install process. Usually after it reboots you can take that disk out. I am using the original 20-ish year old hard drive from this machine, so it is a little slow, but for compatibility reasons, I do prefer original hardware to VMs. And also, I just like using old machines, so that's what I'm doing. And here it is, installing a Microsoft Visual C++ pack, which is interesting that it's doing that in Windows setup and just running the exe. Usually, I mean, I assume Windows usually does that in setup, but it doesn't show you the actual window. That's what the window would look like if you installed it just like from your desktop. If you just double click the exe, usually in setup that kind of thing is hidden, but I guess for people who aren't consumers and actually want to see that kind of thing happening, and want to know that it's happening, that is good that it's just displayed in the setup here. It's been about 10 minutes or so, and our first boot agent is still running and installing our stuff. It just copied some files to System32 in just like a file explorer window. That's interesting. Again, that's usually a thing that setup would hide from you. But in this non-consumer build of Windows, they really don't care if you see it. And now it's installing Microsoft POS for .NET, so I assume that's their custom like point of sale software. But we will find that out very soon once we actually get into this operating system, which I think will be very soon from where we are in the setup process now. Oh, here we go. It says down here, Windows Embedded POS Ready 2009. That's interesting. It says evaluation copy, and down here XPSP, which is XP with Service Pack 3, build 2600. So that's cool. Come on, there we go. Okay, so the only account it created was called Administrator. Whoa, what is this theme? That is not, whoa, okay. That is not the Windows XP theme. Like, this is obviously Windows XP, but, haha. Yeah, it's hitting me with the usual Windows XP stuff, but this is very different looking than XP. This looks like Vista, so they must have applied like the Vista theme on top of XP. That's the only thing I can think of. What do we have installed? Basically nothing. Yeah, nothing past what you need. Network connections, Internet Explorer, clarifying it has no add-ons. Security system, or security center, system information. We'll run that. Yeah, Microsoft Windows XP Professional is what it calls itself. Service Pack 3, build 2600, of course. Yeah, there's not much I can do here once the OS is actually installed, which is exactly what I expected. Let's see what stuff is automatically running. Well, first of all, yeah, this is just XP Task Manager here. Yeah, pretty much nothing running at all. It's all just system tasks. Now, I'm going to plug in a flash drive with some stuff on it. Okay, so it can't open an MP4 or an MP3. So does this not have Windows Media Player? Let's see. Open with. Okay, it does not have Windows Media Player. That is very interesting. No, I don't want to reboot. Here's our little system properties window for anyone who's interested. Here it does say Microsoft Windows Embedded POS Ready 2009 version 2, interestingly, and Service Pack 3. So it doesn't call itself Windows XP here, although it does everywhere else. If I go to the administrative tools, where's is Device Manager here? Yes, here's Device Manager. Oh, that's the Wi-Fi adapter I plug. RAM disk? What? Windows RAM disk controller? Did this auto-install a RAM disk? Is that what's going on? Let me check again how much memory is being used. 141 megabytes. So no, the RAM disk must not be activated currently because that's a normal use for Windows XP. That's about how much it uses with no programs like running. Oops. Sorry, I'm just trying to unplug something from the back, but knocking over my whole setup while I'm at it. Yeah, it doesn't recognize some of the stuff, but I wouldn't expect it to have drivers for like a video controller and, well, Ethernet I would expect to be plug and play. Let's see. Here's our little hard drive. Yeah, all is well here. That's very interesting. So, checking through our services, it's all just regular Windows stuff. I'm beginning to think that DVD drive just flat out died because it's not letting me take the disk out even though I'm like booted into the operating system from a hard drive now. So my DVD drive may have finally died. It doesn't have the Windows XP theme. It's just Windows Classic and embedded style. So that's pretty interesting. And I mean, past this point, I believe we've looked at everything that makes this operating system interesting. Past this point, it's just Windows XP. I bet it'll work just like any other Windows XP version, probably will run XP applications, because it does identify itself as Windows XP to software, from what I can tell. The really interesting part was the installer and the fact that it has this completely different theme. So this was a pretty interesting first look at a build of Windows not designed for the consumer market. Oh, last thing I want to do, I will check how much of our boot hard drive is used. This only uses 4.1 gigabytes of space. I can't remember off the top of my head what my clean XP installations use, because all of my XP computers, I have a lot of other stuff installed on them. But that seems pretty small, even for XP. Anyway, that is going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. As always, hope you enjoyed the video, and hope to see you next time.